Taylor Elwood here, and welcome to the Sovereign Submission podcast. Today, I want to talk about a practice that I think is really important for men to do around building trust in their lives. One of the things that I've observed about both myself and other men is that we don't always trust ourselves. And there's a good reason for that. A lot of times we are going to doubt ourselves and we're going to lack confidence in ourselves because we've been taught to do that. And when you've been taught to not trust yourself, to not respect yourself, to not love yourself or care about yourself, this is going to bleed through in your relationships. One of the challenges that a lot of men have is that they're always trying to find approval and validation from the woman in their life. And as long as you're trying to do this, you're going to come across as codependent and needy and clingy. And she's not going to respect you or trust you because she knows deep down that you don't trust and respect yourself. So the challenge that comes with this then is, how do you actually build that trust? Before I go any further, I want to welcome Brad. Glad to have you here. And if you have any comments or questions as I'm continuing with this, feel free to drop them in. More than happy to answer them as we go through. So one of the fundamental practices that I do with my clients is I teach them how to do mirror work around learning to give themselves the approval and validation they're looking for. And the curious thing that I've discovered, both again from my own relationship with myself, but also from working with other men, is that most men have trouble looking themselves in the eyes in the mirror. Why is that? Well, the answer is really simple and sad in a way. We have been taught not to like, love, or care about ourselves. That's one of the things that society has taught us. I will say that I grew up learning not to like myself, learning to distrust myself. Part of it was just distrusting myself for being a boy / a man. Part of it was just trauma that I took on. And it translated over toward how I would treat myself. I can safely say that pretty much every man I meet has that critical inner voice in his head that punishes him, that tells him all the things he should be doing, that tells him he should be working harder, that tells him he should be better looking, that he should be slimmer, that he should be more fit, that he should have his act together, that he should have everything figured out. We put an incredible amount of pressure on ourselves to perform, to be something in this world. It's because an incredible amount of pressure has been put on us to measure up in certain ways. And this is something that I've, again, observed with other men and I observed with myself. What I have also observed is that as a result, most men don't like, trust, care, or love themselves or respect themselves, because when you learn that you're never going to be good enough, it's hard to feel like you can actually care about that person in the mirror. And this is why it can be actually really useful to take a good look at yourself in the mirror. I'm not going to promise that it's easy, but after you watch this video, one of the things that I would challenge you to do is to go look in the mirror. Take a few moments and really look at that man in the mirror with curiosity. Who is that man? What do you like about him? What do you respect about him? What do you trust or love about that man? If your answer is, I don't have anything, I get it. I used to be there. It felt like no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough. And so consequently, I didn't trust myself, because if I couldn't measure up to that critical inner voice, it wasn't going to be enough. And it didn't matter how much someone else might tell me that they loved me or that they cared about me or any of those other things, because fundamentally at the core of my being, I didn't. And if you find yourself nodding along, if you find yourself kind of agreeing with this, first of all, my heart goes out to you. Secondly, this is some of the work that I do with men. I hold the container to help them do this deep inner work with themselves and liberate themselves from that voice of should. that voice of shame, that voice of rejection and abandonment. And here's the truth, until we do this work on ourselves, we're not going to have the relationships we want with anyone else, whether it's a romantic relationship, a better relationship with our parents, or a better or relationships with friends or anything like that. We're not going to have those relationships because there's always going to be some part of us that is holding back. And at the same time, another part that is tentatively reaching out, hoping that the person that we're hanging out with or spending time with or sitting across from will somehow be able to fill in the gap, the emptiness that we feel inside of ourselves. And that person can't do it. That person can't do it. And it's not their job to do it. So you might say at this point, well, how do we do this then, Taylor? Where do we start? And I'll share what I recommend doing. Uh, Go to the mirror, look yourself in the eyes, really look yourself in the eyes, and say, I love you, I like you, I trust you, I care about you, I respect you, and I honor you. Now, caveat here: when you first say this, you probably won't believe it. Most of the time, I don't know really any man who really believes this the first time they say it, the fifth time they say it, or even the 23rd or 30th time they say it. And if you keep saying it each day, if you keep making the effort and make the point to say it, something will change in you and change in the way you relate towards yourself. This is one of the things that I do each day. I go and I look at myself in the mirror. I say those words. And I might just say them once. I might say them multiple times. And it may be you may find yourself feeling a little self-conscious in saying them. And what I recommend is that if you feel self-conscious in saying them, take a step back and recognize that there's nobody here but you. You don't have to do this practice with anyone else. You can just shut the bathroom door, go into a room with a mirror, close the door, and say it to yourself. No one else has to be there. But give yourself that space in that moment to actually genuinely love, care, like, respect, and yes, trust yourself. I say trust because trust is probably the hardest one to actually achieve in a way. Because trusting ourselves means wow, oh, I can really trust I can really trust myself. And when you've spent a lifetime not trusting yourself, it feels really hard to trust yourself. This is one of the reasons why this mirror work can be so important. And welcome, Sheena. Glad to have you here. So if either you or Brad have any questions, feel free to drop those in or any comments. Learning to love, respect, and care and trust for you is really it's a deep practice and it takes patience. I started doing this practice a few years ago, and it was in the wake of a really harsh breakup. And in fairness, in regards to that breakup, I will say that one of the things that the person pointed out was my codependent neediness, and she wasn't wrong. And one of the smartest things I did is that in the wake of that breakup, I said to myself, I can't date anyone else for a while. I have to figure this out. I have to figure myself out because otherwise I'm just going to put myself back into the same situation or worse. So I didn't. I ended up reading, I ended up taking a course, like a class on breakups and divorces and how to handle them. I've actually have a class of my own on that topic now, but I ended up doing that. And then what I ended up doing is I read some books. And one of the books I read had a practice along these lines. But what that author did is he focused on, I love myself. And that was basically it. And I started that out. And the first month, I did not believe myself when I said I love myself or I love you. I didn't believe it. I knew it wasn't true. I knew I didn't love myself. And yet at the end of that first month, I was starting to treat myself differently. Or showing I wasn't talking as harshly to myself. I wasn't being so hard on me. I was starting to care a bit differently about me. And so I kept doing it. Um, and because I kept doing it, it became easier and easier to believe it. And she asked, I know the whole point of mirror work is to get comfortable with it. And there's some amount of, I don't really believe this at the beginning. But what about those days where, for whatever reason, it feels so incongruous to even say it? Yeah, there are gonna be days where it feels that way, and I'll level with you. Even right now, even now, there are days where I feel that way occasionally, where I'm just like, I don't, like I feel challenged to say that, and it's a great question. What I do is I get in front of the mirror and I make myself say it anyway, and I might even do a bit more of it, honestly, at that point. And That's what I did in the first few months. There were days where I really struggled with believing that I love myself or I love you. No, I don't feel this way. I made myself say it a few more times. I made myself say it until I felt something in me shift. And it didn't solve all my problems or anything else like that. I want to be very clear, but it changed the way I related to myself. And yes, I do have moments even now where I struggle. But I'll tell you one thing that I've found is that I don't beat myself up the way I used to. I don't really beat myself up at all anymore. And there's still occasions, but for the most part, no. And that's huge because having that level of love has led then toward the self-respect. And this is why I've added, I love you, I respect you, I care about you, I honor you, I trust you. I've added all those things because part of what I came to realize is, okay, loving myself is great, but there's some other things I need to be giving myself here as well. And I think that people in general, but I'm speaking this because I work with men, so this is what I'm really speaking to. But people in general struggle with giving themselves love, respect, trust, all those other things because again, we've been conditioned not to do it. So it's really important to actually give ourselves that. And part of how we do it is we do it through these verbal affirmations. Now there's other practices that end up that I also recommend and work with my clients on, but this is a good place to start. And really, it's about creating tiny steps. If I were to tell somebody, here's all the things you need to do to start taking better care of yourself today, most of that is going to be overwhelming because chances are the person that I'm working with has not taken very good care of themselves at all in most ways. And even when somebody thinks they're taking good care of themselves, let's say it's a guy who's going to the gym regularly, he might be going to the gym regularly and still not taking care of himself in most other ways. And so it's like all those practices add up, and there's an important need to create some space around that to allow that in. So that's something I really recommend doing is going a little is start out with this. And if you want help with this, if you're someone who's watching this, whether it's on YouTube or on Substack here, you can definitely reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you with this and implementing this practice. It's a game changer. It transforms the way that you show up in your life for yourself and it transforms your relationships. And it's something that is really important that is going to add up in the long run. She said, I take care of myself as a statement my partner naturally added into his. Well, that's great, you know? So on some level, that's a fundamental recommend thing. And recognizing that I take care of like adding something in like that is huge. So again, if you're watching this and you need some help, there will be a link below. Sign up for a crucible session with me or something like that. And I will be more than happy to help you implement and create this practice in your life because when men do this, and really just people in general, when we do this, it changes the way we show up in the world and the way we relate to each other and ourselves. And it makes our relationships better and sweeter as well. So take care of yourselves and thank you for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.